it's like, say, comp package related or stability of job related, it's probably not worth fighting that battle because they are likely going to end up going that direction. I think in the later stages, if they have indicated they want to be at a startup and you've kind of, checked in on that a few times and you're pretty convinced they want to be at a startup, then you should fight really hard because then it's you against a different company and you should try to win that.
Yeah, this is one of the things I think it's really hard in like the heat of the moment to stick to it because you're behind on hiring, you feel desperate, you get the superstar engineer, and it's really tempting to tell them, like when they say things like, oh, like a bigger company, maybe I'll have like more stability. And it's like, you shouldn't try and convince them that, oh, like your startup's gonna have as much stability, or like working hours, I think are often like a thing that come up. It's like having the discipline to be like, you know what, maybe actually this candidate isn't going to be a good fit and I should just move on.
The related part to that as well is hiring is a repeated game. Like even if you don't hire the candidate now, you might be hiring them a year from now. I mean, we had a candidate who we made an offer to. At the time, they were concerned about like the stability of the company and whether it makes sense to join. And then they ended up joining 6 months later. And so I think kind of choosing when to fight that battle and when you're in the best position to do so as well can make a big impact.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Like, I think some of the elite founders that I've worked with throughout the YC career, they are essentially, in a sense, always recruiting, but they're always looking to meet people who they think are really smart and interesting, whether they're available or not. And it's so common to hear stories from them of, hey, actually, I hired this person after like catching up with them and doing coffees and lunches for 2 years. Yeah. And I think it's easy to assume that's just for these like executive level hires once you're a big company. But I actually think the elite founders just do that from day one, even for like individual engineers that they really want to hire.
And I think that instinct is often really good too. Like if you know it's an IC who will make a big impact, like trusting that gut instinct and following that, it can make a big impact.
The final question from me here is, of course, founders should do all of the recruiting themselves at first, especially for those first few hires. But let's talk about when should they think about hiring a recruiter. And maybe you could start by just giving us a quick primer on what are the differences between a contract recruiter, a contingency recruiter, and an in-house recruiter.
First thing I'd think about is roughly how many hires are you certain you're going to make in the next 6 to 12 months? And then that's going to influence which of the 3 options you go with because they kind of correspond with your commitment level as well. And so we'll start with the highest commitment, which is hiring a full-time recruiter. They join your team and that is their job function and their goal is to bring on new talent into your team.
And this is in-house recruiter.
In-house recruiter, exactly. And they're usually not compensated on commission or hiring fees. They typically have mainly a base salary and then some equity upside in the company as well. The second slightly lower commitment option is for a contract recruiter or an embedded recruiter. And they'll be working with you for a certain number of hours every week. And there might be a predefined contract length, say 3 months or 6 months, but it could also be a month-to-month or even a week-to-week arrangement. Advantage there is that your costs are somewhat in control, it's predictable, and you can also adjust if you need to. For example, if your hiring doesn't end up being as much as you thought it would be. And then the final option is the most flexible, which is a contingency recruiter. On a contingency recruiter, you pay a percentage of the placement fee. Oftentimes that's somewhere between 20, 25%, maybe even a bit higher than that for more senior roles. It's quite expensive because you're, potentially paying $50,000 plus for every hire that you make, but it's also most flexible and you could be working with multiple contingent recruiters at any point in time. And so it can also be the most scalable option if you quickly need to make a lot of hires and you have the budget to be able to pay the contingency fees as well.
When should founders think about getting this help?
I think as soon as you're making multiple hires, I like to think I can work on one hire really well at one point in time, and my co-founder can do the same. And so if we're working on 2 hires, that's roughly where we're at capacity. And so if you're hiring more than that, it can start making sense to think about those recruiting options.
So 2 hires per month, per quarter?
As long as it takes you to fill them. Ideally it's a month, but in our case, I think especially for the early hires, it took us more than a month to fill them. We were always just working on 2 at a time. We tried doing more, but it didn't really work. And then we kind of narrowed it back down to each of us focusing on